In January 2019, Krark-Clan Ironworks was banned for being a degen.
Aww.
But worry not, KCI enthusiast, because today I am doing my best KCI impression in 2023. We're going to use a lot of the same cards from the initial KCI build, but the engine of the deck is Teshar, Ancestor's Apostle. This 4-mana legend returns a 3 CMC creature to play every time an artifact is cast. This angelic bird is going to fuel our infinite combo, along with 3-mana artifact, Blasting Station.
Ooh.
Blasting Station's favorite fodder are Scrap Trawler and Mere Retriever,
Hey, I remember
which can be sacrificed to deal our opponent 1 damage and return a 0-cost artifact from graveyard to hand. You can then play that same artifact, which triggers Big Bird, returns the Retriever or Trawler, untaps the Blast Zone to do it all again. I have 2 builds of this deck I'm going to feature in today's video, the first of which includes Emry and the One Ring as supporting cast. I'm going to ask that you strap yourself in and prepare for the countdown, because today we're going to blast off. Let's go. All right, we are on the play. We are getting to it. Opening 7 is an interesting one. The triple bobble, double ring, single Mox Amber hand. I think we can do better than this. We're gonna mulligan. All right, I lied. We'll go down to 5. 5 looks like a keep to me. And I think we're putting back the Engineered Explosives and the Teshar. Let's do it. Start with our planes into a Chromatic Sphere. Pass turn. Mountain, Goblin Guide. I'm not sure this is a great matchup for us. We will see. Drawn to a Springleaf Drum, which isn't terrible. Let's start on the Saga. We're going to add a blue with the Sphere. Drew into Teshar again. Play out our Retriever. We'll pass turn back. Opponent with combat. Gives us another land. We'll jump block. Return the Sphere back to hand. They spike us and miss their land drop. All right. We're in business. We draw into Blasting Station. We're pretty close to the combo here. Saga up 2. Unfortunately, I think we're in a position where we have to fetch. Flooded Strand. We're just going to get a basic here. Basic Island. We'll play out our Drum. Play out the Sphere. Play out the Emry. Trigger Emry. That's good stuff in the graveyard. Pass turn back. Opponent with combat. Attack. See Blasting Station on top. We're going to take this. Opponent skewers down the Emry. A little unfortunate. Untap. Draw into a Blasting Station. We're going to add a mana. I think we're going to get Ornithopter here. We'll play out our Blasting Station. Play out a Temple Garden tapped. And we're going to pass it back. Okay, opponent finds their second land. Combat, attack for 2. We find a Saga on the top. We're going to take this, go down to 10. And a Roiling Vortex. Untap, we're going down to 9. We draw into a Scrap Trawler. Okay, we're going to start by cracking our Sphere. And we'll add a white. We draw into another Emry. We're going to play out the Saga. We're going to play out the Trawler. We're going to add a blue. Cast out Emry. Mill 4. And we're going to pass back. Vortex deals them 1. And they hit a land. This might be over. Opponent attacks. Haywire Might on top. It's actually going to be really important to get rid of the Vortex to let us combo. We'll block with the Trawler. Trawler dies. And I'm going to put Portable Hole to my hand. Hole is in hand. Searing Blaze hits down the Emry. We're at 6 life. Alright, Vortex down to 5. Haywire Might. Saga up to 2. We'll play Teshar. Opponent activates their Vortex. So now that my opponent is tapped out, we're clear to launch. When I cast the Portable Hole, it triggers Big Bird, and will return Scrap Trawler from my graveyard to play. This will untap Blasting Station. I can then sacrifice the Trawler to the station, which allows me to return a 0-cost artifact from my graveyard to my hand. I choose Ornithopter. Recasting the Thopter triggers the bird again, which will once again bring the Trawler back. I then get to spend the next 10 minutes clicking through this sequence over and over again on Magic Online. Until my opponent's life total reads 0. Because the Game 1 combo took me so long to execute, comboing in Game 2 was out of the question. I became the beatdown and used Shadow Spear to rally back from 1 life to win the match. You're here to see this deck combo kill, not win by attacking with constructs, so I'll save your time. So build 1 was off to a promising start, but never made it into orbit. A low land count and a lack of early game interaction wound up being this build's downfall in subsequent matches. So I went back to the drawing board and prepared to launch again. The second build of this deck patched some of the perceived holes in the game plan,
Literally.
adding 2 more lands, Portable Hole, and main deck Teferis. I wound up cutting the One Ring and Emry to make room for these changes. Let's jump back in the cockpit and fire this thing up again. Opening 7 looks good. We'll keep it. Opponent with a concealed courtyard. Nothing else. Could be black-white scam maybe. Drawn to an Inventor's Fair. Start with a Flooded Strand. We'll just fetch out a basic. Get ourselves a Plains. Chromatic Star and a Bauble. We'll pass it their way during their upkeep. Let's take a look at what they're working with. Archon of Emeria. Got it. So they're taxes. Basic Plains. Bowmaster. We're going to take 1 off that. Bauble's going to trigger. We'll take another 1. Going down to 17. We're going to Portable Hold the Bowmaster. Inventor's Fair and a Sphere, and pass it back. 3 mana, there's the Archon, and attack for 2. Fair's going to gain us a life, and we draw into Teshar. Very, very nice. Play out the Mind Stone, Flooded Strand, we'll pass turn back. Second Archon from our opponent. Attack for 4, we're down to 12. Go up to 13, draw another Sphere. I'm going to fetch with this Flooded Strand, we'll go down to 12. Basic Island, play out Teferi, bounce the Orc Army, draw into the Blasting Station. We have the combo. Opponent with an attack. Kill Teferi, back our way, we're up to 11 life. Find a Mere Retriever. These Archons are really cramping our style here. I think we're going to get Blasting Station down. We need 2 more turns. Opponent's turn, attack for 4, we're going down to 7. Nothing else, back our way, we'll gain a life. Find a Temple Garden, it's going to come into play tapped. Play a Mere Retriever, trigger the Blasting Station. Temple Garden, pass back. Bowmaster is a little bit problematic. Triggers, it's going to hit the... Oh, I was supposed to sacrifice to the Blasting Station. That was a mistake. I'll return a Bauble to hand. Yeah, that's going to hurt. Opponent attacks for 6, puts us down to 2. Going up to 3, draw another Blasting Station. And unfortunately, my mistake of not sacrificing the Retriever to the Blasting Station is going to cost me here. We'll scoop it up. All right, we're going to bring in 2 Supreme Verdict, 2 Prismatic Ending, Haywire Might, and Shadow Spear. We're going to pull Mox Amber, Chromatic Stars, Blasting Station, Mind Stone, and Ornithopter. Take the play. And 7 is fairly land light, but if we find a second land, we're in pretty good shape, so we're going to keep. Opponent keeps their 7. Start with a Flooded Strand, fetch. We're going to get green and white source, shock that in, play out a Sphere, pass turn. Concealed Courtyard, back our way. Drew our second land, that's what we were looking for. Play it out, we'll fetch. Basic Island, crack the Sphere, find another land, we'll play out a Mind Stone, pass turn back. 2 mana for a Leonin Arbiter, it's our turn. Untap, we draw into a Bauble, very close to the combo here. Play out a land, use a Portable Hole, we'll eat the Arbiter, Haywire Might, and a Retriever. Lauren of the Third Path. Destroy an artifact, enchantment, rough. I get rid of my Portable Hole. Now we untap, draw into a Breeding Pool. Let's start with an attack. Both of our creatures, they block. Not sure they know how this one works. Mere Retriever is going to trigger, return Portable Hole to hand. Play out our Teshar, cast the Bauble. It's going to trigger, return the Retriever, and they scoop it up. Moving to the next game, all right. And game 3 wound up being a dud. My opponent was feeling lucky and kept a 1-land hand with Aether Vial, which would have worked out great if I didn't have Portable Hole in my deck. Not only that, it was in my hand. I cast it, and they scooped out to their next draw step. We're 1-0 with list 2. Round 2, we're on the play. Let's go. 19 land in the deck, 6 in hand. We can't keep that. All right, looks like we're going the Saga play in this game. We'll keep bottom of Fountain. We'll start with a Fountain tapped, pass turn. Fun with a basic Swamp, nothing else, back our way. Draw into a Buried Rune, play out a Saga, trigger, pass turn back. Opponent with a Thoughtseize, not much to see here. Take the Scrap Trawler, play out a Swamp, coming back to us. Draw into an Engineered Explosives, Saga up to 2. We're going to play out the Mox. We're going to start getting this other Saga online. We'll pass turn. Opponent with a Demolition Field, try to hit down our Saga. We'll activate, make a construct. Get ourselves a basic Plains, coming back our way. Draw into a Sphere, Saga up to 2. I'm going to play out this Buried Rune into our Sphere, move to combat, and it's Kraken for 3. And I'm not going to activate the Saga yet, just in case they have a board wipe. Another Demolition Field, hit down our Saga again, we'll activate again. 2 4/4s, Fatal Push one of them, we'll bring Island into play. Back to us, we draw another Sphere. I'm going to play one of those out, attack in for 4, and we're going to shock out this Temple Garden. That was a mistake. I thought Buried Rune was 3 to activate. Back their way. 4 mana from our opponent, 1 ring, it's going to trigger. They draw a card. Play a Swamp, I'm going to return Scrap Trawler to hand. Okay, we draw into a Teferi, not bad. I'm going to crack a Sphere, draw a card. 3 mana Teferi. Opponent with a Fatal Push on our construct. Play a land, Scrap Trawler. We're going to bounce our Mox, find a Portable Hole. Play out the Mox, and we'll pass turn back. Down to 10 life. Invoke Despair. Haven't seen this one in a while. Okay, so we're going to lose Scrap Trawler and the Teferi. Return the Sphere to hand. Opponent plays out a land. And they have a Thoughtseize. I think they're probably going to take our Sphere here. And they do. Back our way. Draw into a Bauble. We'll start by drawing a card. We draw a second Bauble. cast both those out. Let's look at their top card. We see a Fatal Push. Opponent's going to draw 2. This is why I waited on the second bauble. Look at the next card. We see a Cling to Dust. We're going to draw 2 off the baubles. Opponent's down to 6 life. They draw 3, up to 9 cards. No Shieldred yet. And I should have kept my mouth shut because their next play, Shieldred. I was buried at that point and I knew it. It's time to try my luck in game 2. Alright, we are changing a lot. We're pulling Explosives, Blasting Station, Mirror Retriever, Mox Amber, Ornithopter, Springleaf Drum, and 2 stars. We're bringing in Stone Brains, Prismatic Endings, Spell Pierces, Needle, and Might. And game 2 wound up being another victory via constructs, so we're going to skip right ahead to game 3. We draw into our third land, not the one we're looking for though. Draw the bauble, see a Leyline on top, play out the Temple Garden, hopes that they help us find an island here. Draw a card off the bauble. Found Teshar, and they lead with a Thoughtseize. We'll see what they take here. They opt for the Stone Brain. Demolition Field into play, back our way. Find a Spell Pierce, can't use it just yet. Play out of Plains, back to them. Thoughtseize, they take Teferi, and they miss their third land drop. They're having problems here. There's our island, we were looking for that. Played out, and we're going to start with a Trawler. 2 mana from our opponent, Edict, and I'm going to return the bauble. Draw into an Ornithopter. We are so close. We're going to play out Plains, Blasting Station. We're going to pass it back, and we have the kill next turn, as long as they can't interact. Opponent with a Swamp, back our way. I think we're going to play out this bauble. Let's look at their top card. We see another land. I'm going to draw into another land before I commit to this. Bauble trigger, and we find our land. Opponent with a Citadel tapped, untap. We draw a Hallowed Fountain. Okay, we're going to start with the Hallowed Fountain. We'll shock that in. We're going to cast Teshar. Triggers Blasting Station. We're going to cast Ornithopter. It's going to return the Trawler. We're going to Blasting Station, target them, sack the Trawler. Trawler's going to trigger. We're going to turn the bauble. Bauble to hand. Opponent takes 1. Ornithopter to play. Untap the Blasting Station. Blasting Station them. Sack the Ornithopter. Play out the bauble. It's going to trigger Teshar. We're going to return the Trawler. Trawler's going to trigger. Back into play. Bauble's back. And they scoop it up. We got there. We're 2-0. While things started great, the next 2 rounds didn't go so well. We ran into back-to-back Crash of Rhinoceri and got run over in each match. Let's move on to match 5, playing for the 3-2 and winning record. And for our 5th and final match, we are on the draw. 7 looks good to me, we'll keep it. Opponent starts with a Boseiju, coming our way. Draw into a basic island. We'll start there, play out a Sphere, a Bauble, and we'll look at their top card. We see a Force Negation, likely Rhinos or a Living End. Pass their way, end of turn, cycle an Oliphant. So we're playing against Living End here. Draw into a Plains, shock and a Steam Vents, and back to us. We draw a Retriever. We're going to crack the Sphere, add a blue, draw into a Spell Bomb, play out a Plains, play out the Retriever, back the other way. Opponent cycles a Generous Ent, Breeding Pool revealed, cycles a Curator, 7 cards in hand. Cycle a Street Wraith, play out a Breeding Pool, shock that in, 3 mana for a Violent Outburst. We can't beat this, we'll scoop it up. So that was quick. Our back is against the wall, but we have an arsenal of sideboard options to bring in against them. Let's refuel and try to get this back. We'll take the play. 7 looks pretty good, we'll keep it. We're going to start with the Bauble. Look at our top card. See a Trawler on top, we don't want that. Play out our Fledged Strand, we'll fetch. Get a Hallowed Fountain, shock that in. Sphere, Bauble, pass turn back. Going to draw a card during the upkeep, find another Bauble, and we'll Bauble them during the upkeep as well. We see a Misty on top. Opponent with a Misty, which we knew about. Draw off the Bauble, find a Retriever, find a basic island. I think we're going to play out Saga, trigger, 2 mana Retriever. Opponent fetches, Breeding Pool tapped, another Bauble, and we'll look at their top card again. We see a Shardless Agent. Draw a card off the Bauble, find another Retriever. Misty Rainforest into play, they're going to fetch Steam Vents, shock, Waker of Waves, Striped Winder to the graveyard. Draw into an Ornithopter, Sagas up to 2. Play out a basic island. We're going to crack the Sphere, draw into a Sphere. We'll play it out, move to combat, attack for 1. They're going down to 15. Opponent with a Force of Vigor, hit down our Saga and our Retriever. Retriever triggers, bring Bauble back to hand. Opponent Misty Rainforest fetch. We know about the Shardless in their hand. 3 mana, there it is. Living End, we'll add a blue, and we're going to Spell Pierce the Living End. Shardless into play, we draw into a Spell Bomb, play out a Breeding Pool, shock. Teferi, we'll minus Teferi, bounce the Shardless. We draw into Teshar. Teferi is a trump card against Cascade strategies because its static ability prevents them from casting the card they cascade into. Teferi buys me time over the next few turns until I am able to stick a Teshar into play. Untap. Alright, we find our land. We'll start by plussing Teferi. Play out the land. Play out Teshar. Play out an Ornithopter. Ornithopter is going to trigger Return Retriever to play. We're just going to pass it back. Opponent knows what's coming. They scoop it up. Opponent keeps 7-card hand. I don't know that this is good enough. I think we're going to mulligan. And this has Teferi, but we can't cast on turn 3. I don't know that's going to get better on 5, though, especially if they have a Grief. So we're going to keep this, get rid of the Haywire Might. Opponent with a Botanical Sanctum. There's a Grief. Exile a living end from hand. Take the Teferi. Back to us. We find a Sphere. Let's start with a Bauble. They cycle an Oliphant. Get a Stomping Ground. Look at their top card. We see a Waker on top. Play out a Saga into a Sphere. And we'll pass turn. Draw off the Bauble. Find another Mind Stone. Not great. Stomping Ground Shock. Back our way. Find an Inventor's Fair. Saga up to 2. Add a mana. Crack the Sphere. Add a blue. Find a land, which I think is going to be too little too late. Play out the Inventor's Fair. Mind Stone. Pass back. Opponent cycles a Waker of Waves. Puts another Oliphant to the graveyard. It's a lot of power in the graveyard. They don't have their third land. Cycle a Curator, Saga up to 3, and we're going to make a Construct. We're going to get a Soul Guide Lantern, exile Grief from the graveyard. Hallowed Fountain tapped, pass the turn. Opponent cycles an Architect, plays out a Misty. We're going to gain 1 off the Fair, draw into a Bauble, play out our Buried Ruin, play out the Bauble, play out another Mind Stone, move to combat, Kraken for 5. Opponent fetches, Breeding Pool tapped, Bauble, let's look at their top card. We see a Shardless on top. Draw off the Bauble, find a Flooded Strand. Opponent with a Breeding Pool tapped, back our way. End of turn, I'm going to draw with one of these Mind Stones. We find a Sphere. We're going to start with a Sphere, move to combat, attack for 4, and bide my time with the Soul Guide Lantern in play until the opponent has had enough. They cast a Force of Vigor, targeting the new Saga in play, along with my Construct, to kill my clock. Because they're tapped out, I take the opportunity to exile their graveyard with the Lantern, and then buy it back with my Buried Ruin. I attempt to recast the Lantern on the following turn, but it gets Force Negationed. It's no biggie because I draw into a Tormod's Crypt, which also meets a Force of Negation. I'm left with no threats, only a lowly Haywire Might in play, and they draw into a Violent Outburst. I find a Saga, and then force the issue with a top deck Teferi. Alright, here comes the Violent Outburst. They're going to have 3 creatures. We might be able to deal with this. Gain 2 life off our Haywire Might. Teferi enters play, and we're going to return Waker to their hand. We draw into another Teshar. We'll pass turn. Opponent moves to combat, attacks 3 at Teferi, 4 at me. Alright, we're down to 19. Cycle Generous Ent, trigger the Curator. Cycle the Waker, trigger the Curator. They have a basic Forest. Draw into a Chromatic Star, trigger the Saga. I think we might get this one. We'll play out the Star. It's going to trigger Teshar, return the Might, crack the Star, draw a card. We find a Spell Pierce that doesn't really do anything. Play out a land. We're going to move to combat, attack for 2. Opponent's down to 4 life. Opponent with an attack for 7. So to me, this says they have another creature, but I think this is fine. We'll take it. We'll go down to 12. Cycle a Curator, scry 1. Demon's tapped. Make a Construct, end of turn. They have Violent Outburst. I don't think there's any more living ends in their deck. Nope. And we finish out with 3-2 record. Nice. So version 2 was definitely a step in the right direction, but there's still more room for improvement with this deck. Throughout the process of brewing, I found myself wanting to add in Urza, which makes me want to add in Thopter Foundry, and then Sword of the Meek, and then it just becomes something completely different. So if you're trying to stay true to the KCI identity, how would you build this deck? Let me know in the comments below. I want to thank you for tuning in, and I will see you all again very soon. Until then, you know the deal, my friends. Be well.